Now that's what I call a trailer worth waiting for. The hype behind Avengers Doomsday has probably been the biggest seen among Marvel fans since Infinity Wars and Endgame, and the official trailer lives up to expectations. I know that many are complaining about the quality of special effects and the costumes of some of the superheroes, but I was too busy being awestruck by the Avengers-level threat that has now been introduced. Yeah, man, I'm talking about Dr. Doom, who makes Thanos look like a high school bully, and the way Thor explains the magnitude of the threat definitely sells the crisis to the audience. I still can't get over the reappearance of Steve Rogers, and there are many other characters who make sure that the movie is as much fan service as it is reviving the Marvel franchise. In this video, I'll explore all the characters who've appeared in the trailer and their potential role in the movie, so that you have a fair idea about what to expect when you head to the theaters.
The most human power. Hope.
Charles Xavier. The threat is so big that they have to bring in the X-Men as well. And while we see a few of them in the trailer, Professor Xavier is the one who caught my attention the most. He appears in his wheelchair in what looks like a ruined and abandoned Xavier School setting. The X-Mansion is definitely past its glory days here, and I think he's been brought into this reality as the mutant leader who can guide the X-Men through the Doctor Doom crisis. I can assure you that this appearance is not just going to be a random cameo, and when we see him later in the trailer alongside Magneto, it indicates that uneasy alliances must be made in order to combat this threat. Also, from the looks of it, the X-Men have suffered some losses, even before the main conflict, and I love how Marvel has leaned into the classic Professor X image for this version played by Patrick Stewart. Maybe he'll have to keep his moral compass aside for some of the tough decisions that he has to make. Also, there's a good chance that he belongs to a separate mutant reality and not Earth 616. And he's brought in because his world is directly threatened and he has become a part of an attempt to understand and survive the multiverse collapsing. Thor. I found it to be a really smart move to introduce Thor as one of the narrators in the trailer footage, because nothing hits harder than seeing the mighty Thor scared and rattled. It's safe to say that Thor has been set up as one of the major protagonists in the movie, and those who've been disappointed by a comedic display in Love and Thunder will see a much more serious and darker version of him in this film. It really makes a strong impact when he points out that everyone needs to keep their petty differences aside because the threat is so massive. People much stronger than the current lot have fought forces less deadly and died in the attempt, so it sends out a clear message that the Avengers have their task cut out against Dr. Doom. I think this version of Thor adds up well with what we've seen in the teaser, where he's shown praying to Odin, asking for strength, and I believe we'll see a more matured version of him in the movie. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that Dr. Doom might be after his daughter, but the goofy Thor is gone. Also, another thing that caught my attention is that he seems to arrive with the Fantastic Four, and when he meets the new Avengers, he's probably flown in the Fantastic Four's ship. I guess they're making Thor the bridge between the different superhero teams, because only a united front will give them a chance. But what I think is the highlight of the trailer is his fight scene with Dr. Doom, which really isn't much of a contest. He uses the powerful Stormbreaker against Doom, who stops it with his fingers, suggesting that he is far too superior, and once again, it establishes the threat of him bringing about absolute destruction.
Is done. We shall be faced with an unthinkable decision.
Dr. Doom. Ever since it was announced that Robert Downey Jr. will play Dr. Doom in the film, Marvel fans have been thrilled by the prospect. However, there is still some confusion in my mind as to how they might introduce him as Dr. Doom. Will this be a twisted version of Tony Stark? All this just a separate entity with a similar face, as we've seen with Chris Evans? Well, I don't have the answer to that yet, but I can tell you already that Dr. Doom will be the most powerful Marvel villain that we've encountered so far. The fight scene with Thor is a great example of what you can expect, and all the superheroes and mutants of the world are not assembling for nothing. The trailer has given us the most clear image of Dr. Doom so far, and we even hear his voice. Visually, it's close to the comic book version, which is a great thing for the fans, and the emerald green robe covering the silver medieval armor looks pretty cool, as does the mask. I'm also curious to find out if this Doom takes off his mask, because you don't cast Robert Downey Jr. and just keep his face hidden away throughout the movie. That being said, Doom is famously shy about taking the mask off in the comics. There are a few origin stories behind his mask, and I wonder which one the movie's going to follow. Also, let's not forget that young Franklin Richards has already seen his face in the post-credit scene for the Fantastic Four First Steps, and I think this film will do a follow-up job. The voice of Doom in the trailer is very different from Tony Stark, and if they can fit Doom into the overall picture without much of a fuss, it'll be one hell of a Marvel villain to remember.
I've fought with many warriors in my time.
Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic. We all expected Mr. Fantastic to have a major role in Avengers Doomsday, and he does as Pedro Pascal steps into one of the major protagonists in the story. He's part of the team trying to solve the multiverse crisis before it's too late, and he leads the Fantastic Four into this mission. As one of the smartest strategists in the room, you might get a few clever plans out of him, and he might be the one to explain to the others how realities are colliding and how this is something that threatens mass extinction. Of course, his fighting skills will be put to good use, and he also has his family at stake here because of the post-credits scene in the earlier movie. You might see the opposite sides of the coin in him and Doctor Doom, where he wants to preserve the multiverse in a stable way, and Doom wants a harsher solution, with authoritarian control over reality. I wouldn't be surprised if Doom wants to make an alliance with Reed Richards in the beginning, before he's refused and Mr. Fantastic is off to gather support in order to fight this Avengers-level threat. Steve Rogers. His presence in Avengers Doomsday was confirmed a long time ago, but I still didn't expect to see him in the trailer because I assumed that the creators would hold him back for a surprise on the big screen. But here he is, and Steve Rogers has arrived in all his glory. His interaction with Thor is probably my favorite moment in the trailer because I've always been a Captain America guy, and Chris Evans is as charming as ever. Thor has the same look that I had while watching the trailer, and he cannot believe that his old friend and colleague is back. In fact, he's slightly hesitant about his real identity, until it's confirmed that Steve Rogers is the same one worthy of holding Mjolnir. It flies into his hands like a willing pet, and that's all the confirmation that Thor needs here. The assuring smile of Steve Rogers is probably all we need against Doctor Doom as the fate of the universe is at stake. Now, I don't know how he appears all young and fit, ready for a fight, given that the last time we've seen him was when he allowed himself to age. But with all this multiversal madness, who knows where the story might pick up from, and which universe he even belongs to.
They became our protectors.
Sue Storm. I did say that the Fantastic Four will be a major part of Avengers Doomsday, led by Mr. Fantastic, so of course, his partner Sue Storm would be in the mix of things. She's there alright, played by the gorgeous Vanessa Kirby, and the only thing I didn't like about her appearance in the trailer is the costume. Now, this is a character that is usually written as intelligent, empathetic, and powerful, and I think we'll see all of that in the movie, as she has to manage several alliances in the course of time in order to take on the inevitable Doctor Doom. Also, with the presence of Namor in the movie, there might be a few tensions because the comics have a long-standing connection between Sue and Namor. Regardless, I think she'll be very important in both personal drama and crisis response, and Invisible Woman will have her tasks cut out for her. The Thing. You cannot have the Fantastic Four without the Thing, and he appears in the trailer, played by actor Eben Moss-Bachrach. My only complaint here is that even though the character is CGI, he looks like the shortest person on screen, while they could have easily made him tower over the others. We see him in the Avengers Tower alongside Thor and the others, and later we see him meeting the Wakandan leaders like Shuri and M'Baku. Aside from his size, which looks weird on screen, he has a presence that'll be much required for the movie. Let's not forget that the Thing and the Human Torch offer some comic relief in the Fantastic Four, and given how serious the overall tone of Avengers Doomsday is, I'm sure we could use a few jokes along the way. Also, a crisis of this scale probably means that there will be a few casualties along the way, which makes me increasingly worried about characters like the Thing, who might just be disposed of. But I guess it's too early to make those kind of assumptions. Human Torch. You can move past Chris Evans as the Human Torch because Joseph Quinn takes up the mantle in Avengers Doomsday. I've already told you about the importance of the Fantastic Four in the story, and obviously Johnny Storm will be a part of it. While the Thing steals the show in the trailer footage, you don't really see much of the Human Torch, and I have a feeling that Marvel is keeping his footage details under wraps on purpose. As the more impulsive member of the Fantastic Four, Johnny can serve both as a handy combat support and a comic relief, and I'm sure we'll get more of the banter between him and the Thing. Ant-Man. With Ant-Man, what I love the most is the simplicity of Paul Rudd that really pushes the character, even when there are so many other major ones to focus on. He's usually awestruck by the occasion and his colleagues, and it doesn't seem very different in the trailer footage as well. The shot of Ant-Man with his daughter Cassie Lang is adorable, and for those who don't remember, Cassie's already made her superhero debut as Stature in the 2023 Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Given his experience with time jumps and the quantum universe, I think Ant-Man will come in handy. And his past ties with the original Avengers makes him an automatic choice for this crucial mission. Cyclops. You can't imagine having the X-Men as a part of the combat force against Dr. Doom without Cyclops taking center stage. Well, he's here in the trailer, played by James Marsden, who's the original live-action Cyclops. What a time to reprise this role. I think he might be the tactical leader of the X-Men, and Scott Summers will also be a handy combatant with his powers. In the trailer, you could see him in what looks like a battle crisis moment, where he's dressed in his classic blue and yellow X-Men suit. He looks like he's taking a beating, and he fires a powerful optic blast as he remains on his knees. The X-Mansion, which seems to be burning behind him, might also have some significance. I wonder if he'll be one of the first casualties in a universe that's destroyed, and the disastrous appearance in the trailer points to that scene. Nevertheless, if he's part of the larger team to fight Doom, it'll be one hell of a cinematic experience to be sure. Mystique. One could argue that the footage of Mystique that we've seen in the trailer uses far too much special effects, but I wouldn't agree. It looks really cool, and Mystique in this version goes through a transformation that really stands out. I would have loved for her eyes to glow yellow, which would have been in line with her animated series and comic book versions, but regardless, I'm sure she has some really badass moments to shine in the movie. In the trailer, you can see her wearing a comic-accurate white costume, and Rebecca Romijn is more than a perfect fit as Mystique. Her fight scene with Yelena Belova stands out, and this is yet another Avengers vs. X-Men duel in the movie. I'm very curious to see how they put together the story version of Raven and her relationship with the X-Men and Magneto. Namor. Namor might not be interested in matters on land, but what if his kingdom of Talokan is threatened as well? In the trailer, you can see the likes of Shuri and M'Baku facing off against Namor and his forces from the Undersea Kingdom, but I don't see this clash widening in the movie. In fact, it could just be one of the more uneasy alliances that has to be forged in order to fight this upcoming threat. It's quite something, right? To see Wakanda seeking an alliance with Talokan in order to deal with something so severe that no personal entity can be focused upon. Now, this wouldn't be completely unexpected given the uneasy truce the nations formed by the end of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Also, the tension between Namor and Sue Storm in the comics might be explored in the movie, which would be a great addition to all the drama. Even the complicated alliance with Shuri might be worth exploring here. Shuri. The trailer might not have handed Shuri a flashy action sequence, but it doesn't take away her importance within the story. It'll tie up with her loss, which is directly tied to the events of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and this will be a more mature and battle-hardened version of Shuri. The refined Black Panther suit probably means that we'll see her in action as well, but as of the trailer footage, she has a more important matters of diplomacy to handle as she stands with M'Baku and the Dora Milaje. The alliance with Namor will not be an easy one, and it'll be a question of duty bigger than ego if they are to work together. M'Baku. He's the new king of Wakanda, and he introduces himself as such while meeting Ben Grimm, aka The Thing. The desert setting looks apt, and even the quick footage is enough to deduce that M'Baku is a serious Wakandan leader and not just a fringe supporting character. I guess we'll have a few laughs because of the culture clash as he meets Ben Grimm, but much like Shuri, the focus will be more on his diplomatic skills than anything else, as he must make peace with those who would prefer fighting. If Wakanda has a key role to play in the conflict against Dr. Doom, you can be sure that the likes of Shuri and M'Baku will be leading the fight. Well, at least they'll have some powerful allies by their side. Shang-Chi. He's a part of what's being described as the first major Avengers vs. X-Men duel in the trailer, and it's the scene to behold as Shang-Chi takes on Gambit. I'm not sure why these two are fighting, but surely it won't be a long-standing conflict that continues for too long. Also, with his powerful 10 rings, I think Shang-Chi would be a clear winner, and the momentary clip from the trailer makes it clear that Shang-Chi has some of the coolest moves in the film. Simu Liu has been rather impressive in the role, and I completely understand why they would want to retain him for some more action. Gambit. Say what you will about Channing Tatum's Gambit, but I think he really fits the role perfectly. As I just talked about in the duel between Gambit and Shang-Chi, Gambit seems to have a few badass moves up his sleeve, and we even see the discards around as he fights a superior opponent. But to be fair, I don't see Gambit winning this one because he's by no means an Omega-level mutant, and Shang-Chi with the power of the 10 rings should be more than a match. Well, at least they'll eventually fight on the same side, so Gambit has one less thing to worry about. He's among the prominent X-Men members who show up in the trailer, and I have a feeling that his role in the movie might not be too expansive, given how many major character arcs they have to fit in.
What are you doing?
Magneto. As an ally or as an enemy, there are few who could be as strong as Magneto, and I hope his appearance in the trailer indicates that he'll be fighting as a part of the Avengers. The trailer opens with Xavier witnessing what happens to be a major devastation outside his window, and this might well be a massive multiversal incursion. The scene with Xavier and Magneto might be premised here, and this actually connects with the earlier X-Men focused teaser, where we saw Xavier in the same room with Magneto, preparing for the end together. I'm sure his powers will come in handy, and given that the theme of the movie is that everyone has to put aside their differences for the greater good, I guess it's time for the old friends to reunite for a common cause. Loki. For me, this is one of the best takeaways from the trailer, as Loki is back in action. He seems to have his TVA pass, and the tree Yggdrasil is etched on the back of his pass. Could this be his getaway card? Clearly something big enough has happened to release him from the duty of holding the multiverse together, and maybe this has something to do with the warning of Doctor Doom. All I can say is that I'm thrilled to have him back, and there can be a crazy reunion if Thor and Loki get together for one last dance against Doctor Doom. I know that we've seen him becoming the god of stories in the season 2 finale of the Loki series, but an Avengers movie without his presence just wouldn't cut it for the fans. Sam Wilson. It's almost easy to forget that Sam Wilson's the new Captain America. Such is the star power in this movie. Also, with Steve Rogers back in the mix of things, I wonder where that leaves Sam. But from the looks of the trailer, he's still an important part of the Avengers team, and you can see him in a couple of scenes, including one where Thor talks to everyone about the magnitude of the threat they're faced with. Sam might be a handy organizer, especially because he's been shown to accept his responsibility of forming his own Avengers. He'll be one of the human-scale heroes who will be important in organizing the resistance and uniting everyone for the common cause. I really look forward to seeing his interaction with Steve Rogers.
It's Bucky!
The Winter Soldier.
Bucky. Speaking of a reunion with Steve Rogers, I can't think of a better name than his childhood best friend, Bucky. This is a character who's undergone some crazy changes over the course of the MCU, and now he's a part of the core team. In the movie, you might see him as a mediator who brings about an alliance between the Avengers and the New Avengers as the tensions rise. There are some who've speculated that Bucky will be crucial in setting up an alliance between the Wakandans and Namor's people. But if you ask me, I wouldn't be surprised if I see Bucky as one of the early casualties in the conflict, because there have been rumors doing the rounds that he's not going to be around for very long in this world. The casting of Sebastian Stan in the Batman 2 has only fueled the rumors, and maybe we'll see the last of him in this movie. Yelena Belova. There might be more to Yelena Belova than her hallway brawl with Mystique, which is clearly not the ultimate fight scene featuring her. She might be a human-scale fighter, but that doesn't stop her from being an important part of the team. There have been theories that her fight with Mystique takes place at the X-Mansion, where Mystique transforms into Yelena, creating some confusion. She'll eventually be a part of the New Avengers, and her skills might come in handy as they prepare for a battle with unlikely winning odds. We've already seen glimpses of her combat abilities in a hand-to-hand fight sequence, but it's probably her brain that will find more use against a threat that's far beyond her power. Agent Walker. If you're not too familiar with the MCU history of Agent Walker, he's a former Captain America replacement and operates as a US agent. If the team assembled to take on Doctor Doom needs someone tough and useful, he might be the guy. But he's also not the easiest to trust, so that tension will be there. I think he'll be seen as more of a supporting character, but it's still an interesting addition to the cast. Wyatt Russell will continue his enhanced super soldier arc from the events of Thunderbolts, and we're not complaining. Ghost, played by the enigmatic Ava Starr. Ghost is another character who returns as a member of the new Avengers in Doomsday. I'm not surprised to see her in the trailer that also introduces the likes of Yelena and Red Guardian, and she'll fit in just fine in this massive assembled roster. Much like Agent Walker, I don't expect to see Ghost in a leading role, but it still bodes well for the future of MCU if characters like this are being brought to the forefront. Red Guardian. He's the kind of character who brings both muscle and personality, and there will also be some comic relief as Red Guardian enters the screen. While he might not be leading like Sam or Bucky, he can still matter in fights, and in moments when Marvel wants the audience to have a few laughs. David Harbour plays the role, and I think he's a more than capable actor to pull this off. Cassie Lang. The daughter of Ant-Man might have more to do here than her father, given how the broader MCU has had her set up. I expect to see a few emotional sequences featuring her and her father, and the trailer even gives us a glimpse of that. She's the personal life anchor for Scott Lang, and Marvel is known to exploit personal tragedy to increase the stakes, which makes me wonder about her fate in the movie. Herby. It's almost easy to miss Herby among all the characters who appear in the trailer, but if you watch closely enough, you'll spot the little robot in the background. In the scene featuring Yelena Belova, you can see Herby next to Sam Wilson in Mr. Fantastic. From the looks of it, Herby seems to have undergone a few upgrades since his last appearance in Fantastic Four: First Steps. This is actually in line with all the costume upgrades that we've seen for the entire Fantastic Four family, who received more modern costumes for the movie. Now, I'm not particularly a fan of the costumes, but it is what it is. As for Herby, I really want the robot to have a few adorable moments, because these distractions help when a threat so big appears before it. Some prominent missing faces in the trailer. You must have noticed that some prominent faces are missing in the much-awaited trailer of Avengers Doomsday, and this holds a lot of significance. One of the first things I noticed is that Spider-Man is missing in action, and this comes as a surprise, especially because Tom Holland has not officially been confirmed to appear in the movie. I wonder where he might be during the events of the movie, and surely the upcoming Spider-Man movie will have a few clues in this regard. Also, the missing Doctor Strange is a bit of a mystery because I think he of all people fits into this story the most. Beast, played by Kelsey Grammer, is one of the confirmed characters for the movie who's not appeared in the trailer, and the reason might be that his appearance gives up a crucial spoiler, or it's rather insignificant in the movie. It's the same with Nightcrawler, played by Alan Cumming, who's surprisingly not a part of the trailer roster. Lastly, I'll be really disappointed if I don't see Mark Ruffalo's Dr. Bruce Banner in some capacity in this movie. Is this the best trailer of an Avengers movie that I've seen? Well, to be fair, it isn't, but what still gives me a lot of reason to be very excited about the film is the sheer amount of fan service. It is nostalgia reloaded as the familiar faces from the extended Marvel Universe are back together to face a threat as big as Doctor Doom. And it doesn't get much better than this. I just hope that the story's not compromised, because this can really turn out to be a make-or-break movie for the future of Marvel. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the dramatic trailer footage and all the characters who've appeared in the trailer. Please be sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell, so when more Avengers content drops, you find out here first. Be safe, have a great day, and as always, stay Marvel.